fish tank at home. It's a 75-gallon saltwater tank. It's about 6 months old, so people say it's in the ugly phase. It is. It's got all the bells and whistles and a bunch of filters, protein skimmer, 2 fancy lights that automatically turn on and off, and a bunch of pumps. And these are my fish in my fish tank. I have 2 clownfish, a foxfish rabbitfish, and a firefish goby, and a diamond goby. And that's Archie, my cat, who is not a fish, but I love him. So a couple of these things are like the key parameters that everybody who has a saltwater tank knows that these are the most important things that you're always tracking, otherwise everything dies. So you have to check your salinity, your pH, your temperature, your lighting, and your flow. And if all of those things are great, then your tank becomes beautiful. And one of the most important that is important to me is the temperature. And so like I have a heater that turns on and off to keep the temperature, but if it were to fail, it could either get stuck on and fry all the fish or turn off and go cold, and it's something that I wouldn't notice. It's something that is solved by ReefPi, which is an open source project. And so they do a bunch of different Raspberry Pi add-ons where each circuit does different things and shows you all the metrics on their beautiful web UI. So I did the first project, which is the power controller, and so it automatically turns on and off different things that you plug into this special power strip. So I can have it go for all of my lights and heater and pumps and everything, and have it all automated. So step 1 was to go to Amazon and buy all the stuff. And so I bought a Raspberry Pi, a bunch of resistors, some ICs, some Raspberry Pi hats, wire, breadboards, all the goodies. I have 100 resistors. There's no way I will use any of these, but now I have them. And so I was able to set up my Raspberry Pi. This is the first project that I've done with a Raspberry Pi. And so I SSH'd in and I updated all of the necessary packages, and I edited a bunch of files, and I felt very cool. And I installed ReefPi from GitHub. And after I installed it, I was able to set it up and run it, and I could go to their beautiful web UI. So this is where you do all of your adding of each input, output. They've got 100 different pages, so you can show all the different metrics and all your fish tank stuff. And step 1 was building the simplest circuit, where I built just a little LED with a resistor on it, and so I connected it into the Raspberry Pi. Here's the picture of all of the Raspberry Pi inputs and outputs. I stared at this picture for many hours, so we can all stare at it now together. And when it was all successful, I was able to set it up in their web UI and have an on-off switch, and so when I click it on and off from my computer, it turns on and off my LED. This is a huge win for me. And then the next step is like vastly more complicated than the LED, and so I was able to connect an IC, which has a whole bunch of inputs and outputs, and then I soldered it all in, and this connects directly to the Raspberry Pi and connects a whole bunch of stuff. I followed a guide, and then I went to their web UI, and I had to add each one individually for each input and output, and I again followed their guide and added all sorts of million things. That was very cool, and then I was able to test it out, see what went wrong. And so the most things was that it was soldering. There was a lot of soldering in this project. I didn't really anticipate that much. Some of it became very crooked. I outsourced some of it. Those are Adrian's hands soldering. But then it was all great. Here are the beautiful charts that it comes with, so it shows you all of like turning it on and off, the power, cool numbers, made me feel like I was hacking into my fish tank. And then some things I thought about while I had finished this was like, okay, was it cool, was it worth it? Like, it was pretty entertaining, but like most reef projects, it was actually quite expensive. It turns out you didn't save any money by doing it yourself. And there's a whole bunch more in the ReefPi open source project that I would like to get my hands on, but didn't get to touch at all. And so some future steps are some of their other projects. So number 1 is the temperature controller, which would be very cool. So it sends you like email alerts for when your thermometer is like wacky, and then it turns things on and off. And then there's like a light controller. But the temperature controller is the next project that I'll be doing, and so it'll be able to alert me when I have something go wrong, and then I'll be able to do it all remotely, which is very cool. And so eventually, I will have this fish tank, and this is what it will look like in my house, definitely for sure, and I'm very excited. Thank you guys.